sorry, that's for a Democrat show.
Let me know when you're ready.
With an extremely great conservative commentator. We're tearing it up on Wednesday night. This is awesome. This will allow me to retort.
Away from the door, please.
Well, this is Jersey Joe for the Reaver of Common Sense show. I'm on shrmedia.com.
Actually, I just totally screwed up. This show contains language that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. And now on to the show.
And welcome to the show. I am your host, Jersey Joe. This is Reaver of Common Sense. Conservative media done right. We're going to have a special guest tonight. And it is the great BZ. How you doing, BZ?
Real good. How about you, sir?
Pretty good. Except I forgot to add in. I'm still getting everything all set up, and I forgot to add. Oop, shut the cameras off. Oop. See, I'm totally screwing up here.
No, you're not.
Add source.
You want to see who screws up? Put
here
my face back on.
There we go. All right. Now I got it. I did the new promos and all that, and I put it in the program. I just didn't get it set up for the show. You'll have that. Shit happens. Other than that, how are you doing?
Excellente. Are you doing anything in particular, or are we just kind of riffing if we wish?
Riffing. If you got something, go ahead and start with it.
Let me do this. You and I and Sackhead Sean had about a 3-hour discussion last night.
Yes, we did.
Until about 1 a.m. Now, that was 1 a.m. my time, Pacific time, which is also Sackhead Sean's time, 1 a.m. Pacific time, which for you in Florida was your ass was up until 4 a.m.
Yep.
So I think we ended up discussing a ton of really cool stuff that we have planned for SHR. And it kind of sounds like the Blues Brothers in 1980 were thinking about getting the band back together. And I think that's a wonderful deal. So in that, I don't know, that had to be at least 3 hours, right? That we were discussing.
Oh, easy.
It was after my show last night with Kerry Baxter Donovan.
Yep.
And the three of us were riffing back and forth. And Sackhead Sean, we always had shrmedia.com. And in a little bit of history with SHR Media, one time there were probably...
Sorry about that.
10 hosts, at least, on SHR. And that was back in 20... I joined in I retired in 2016. I went to Freedom Fest in 2016 and 2017. In 2016, I was doing all the heavy lifting for SHR because as the older guy, I was still the new guy. So I was expected to do I drove as they flew first class, sipping watermelon liqueur with their pinkies raised. Oh, Clint, what do you think? Poor BZ is driving in Nevada's heat at 110 degrees, as here we are at 35,000 feet in a Southwest jet in first class, raising our pinkies like this and knocking down all sorts of liqueur, etc., while I'm in my Mercedes. And I got to tell you this was really cool. So I'm getting close to, I think it was Nellis Air Force Base at the time. This is 2017. No, it was 2016 because I didn't get my show until January of 2017. So it's 2016. I retired. I'd only been retired 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, something like this. So I'm driving on over whatever highway. I drove up 80, got into Nevada, and then went south on whatever big freeway that is that goes right by Nellis Air Force Base. And I wish I had a photo of this. So I'm getting close to Nellis Air Force Base, which lets me know that I'm getting close to Las Vegas. So because I'm driving south, Nellis is on the east, meaning it's on my left. So the coolest fucking thing is I look out my left window, and as soon as I do that, there's an MQ-5 Reaper drone pacing me at about 1,000 feet, aiming towards Nellis Air Force Base, and it's right in my face. I mean, this thing isn't more than 1,000 feet off the deck. It's a Reaper drone, and who knows? It's controlled somewhere, probably by some airman or sergeant or whatever they appoint at Nellis. It's pacing my car. I'm doing, I don't know, maybe 70 or 80. So this thing is pacing me. I look over to the left. I can't believe my good fortune and yet it's so weird. It's like something out of X-Files where that's a Reaper drone. It's pacing me. It's about 1,000 feet over the deck. Then this thing takes off. I look over a little bit further southeast. There is a mountain range of some sort there. And this thing goes over the mountain range. And I'm thinking, that made my trip right there. Going to Las Vegas. These guys are getting drunk on mint juleps in Southwest. And I saw the coolest thing I'd seen yet in 2016. That was worth the trip just right there. But the point is, as I, went down this other really strange adjunct, is at one time, SHR had a ton of people on. We were basically the launching point for Melanie Colette, who's on Newsmax now.
And by the way, Sean did reply. I put it up on screen.
Oh, listen. Oh, I'm looking at that. He chose to drive. That shit's not funny, because if I didn't put all the stuff in the back of the car, they would have had to pay for the freight, or they would have had, I don't know how they would have. Anyway, okay. So they injected me with something that, okay, I'll do whatever they say. And so they packed up all my crap into my Kraut car, and I drove my Kraut car to Las Vegas. However, because of the drone and because of the fact that really cool stuff happened in the 2016 Freedom Fest, I forgave them. But they had me do penance. For one thing, when I first got there, I was given doggy diet, and I had to crawl over there on my hands and knees at my advanced age and ask for a cup of, excuse me, sir, may I have a cup of water? My throat is dry.
I'll tell you what, when I heard that
that's how I got treated by SHR.
I was kind of glad to see it come on board, because I was no longer the FNG.
I was. Okay. I was the FNG.
Sean still called me the FNG for a long time. So,
but SHR, as Sean has discussed many times, SHR got into a strange mode. I'm looking at the chat. Sean says, yeah, I was drinking on the plane. For the record, duh, who wouldn't? Jeez.
Exactly.
It isn't Nellis. It's another base outside Vegas on Highway 95. I was thinking it's Nellis. Yeah, that could be right. Of course, he could be wrong. But it was an Air Force base. It was an MQ-5 Reaper, and it was just cool as shit. We made him wait in the closet until we needed him to run for drinks at the event. That's true. Wait a minute. True. Okay.
I just want to let everybody know, if you're watching the show through Twitter, you can comment, jump in the conversation. If you're watching through Rumble, if you're watching through YouTube, and that's one of the things we do got to get to is, well, there's been a lot of changes already and a lot more to come. Most everything has been switched over to a SHR media outlet, YouTube, the Rumble, TikTok. Pretty much everything is now SHR Media.
There's a ton. Let me check this up here.
And we are also now looking for
a ton of expansion going on.
We're looking for other broadcasters. If you're interested and you want to give it a shot, get a hold of Sackhead Sean, myself, or BZ.
But are you willing to pay the price, the ultimate price that was demanded of me? Well, we'll see to that. Anyway, SHR launched some great people. Creech Air Force Base. Okay, that might have been it. That could be it. Not saying it's not, but it very well could have been Creech Air Force Base. If Sackhead Sean, that happens to be the original or the origin base of the various Dreepers.
Or wasn't Chong?
Because I know that drones are controlled someplace in Nevada, and it very well could be Creech. Anyway, it's just a way cool thing. We launched some fabulous, Sean and Clint launched some fabulous careers at the beginning of SHR. Had some incredible people on back in the day where the competition for guests was nothing like it is now. People weren't doing podcasts. People weren't doing live presentations. And you could reach out to somebody that you perceived as being really cool, and they would say yes, and they'd come on. And SHR, Sean and Clint got some fabulous gets at the time. And that's also, now I went to 2 Freedom Fests. Sean in chat, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys went to at least, I think 2 more Freedom Fests before I got there. So I think you guys had been to Freedom Fest 4 times. I was only there 2, starting in 2016, then the 17, and then the 18, we didn't go back. Just all sorts of things happened. But the cool thing was SHR under Clint and Sean, or should I say Sean and Clint, they broke barriers and boundaries and got lots of cool people on, and essentially launched the careers of Melanie, of Carrie Baxter Donovan. She got on, and also, God, who am I thinking? Oh, Ken McClunton, because Ken used to come onto the show, and they would riff like crazy. And then Ken went on to create TECN, the Exceptional Conservative Network, and is essentially his own TV channel. And then after about 19, I think 19 was the incipient, not the big, but the incipient explosion of Wuhan 19 into 2020, and then late 2019, all of 2020, 2021, everything just took a tank. Everything tanked.
Yeah.
I decided at that point, for an abundance of reasons, that I was going to leave California, always spell it with a K. So my final show that's the other thing. We were told in the studio. Now, people disbelieved this. They thought we were doing podcasts in our basement, and that was incorrect. Sean could tell you he'd had at least 3 prior locations for doing the show, and then got the newest studio before I left, which was, I don't know, that thing was probably 1,000 square feet, had a huge entry room, our own entry door in the back of a house just out of downtown Sacramento. So when I say that we were in downtown Sacramento, just a stone's throw away. Clint would throw rocks at prostitutes, by the way. A stone's throw away from the Capitol building at 4th and Capitol, the locus of evil on the entire left coast. That's true. We weren't far from the Capitol. That's where all the evil crap emanated. And so that was a great studio. at least it was about 1,000 square feet. We had somebody that was in there doing another office. They eventually left. So we had
I'm out.
the big room, the front room, a bathroom, a second room with a closet. There was a little hot plate refrigerator. I mean, it was a full out, beautiful, really comfy kind of, you could just stretch back kind of studio. And at the end of the show, I would have to drive it. It'd take me about 25 minutes to get home from the studio, but it was wonderful. Then we were told that better get ready because the guy that owned that building, even though it was in California, in Sacramento, $100 a month for a studio, for a room, a series of rooms that big, that guy gave us like the mom and pop, I love you to death dearly rate, $100. And then he said he was thinking about selling the building. So if it weren't for him saying that he was going to sell the house, because it was a house in the front and a little house in the back. We were in the house in the back. Then I wouldn't have moved the studio. To be fair, it was a friend who owns it. Okay, I thought it was the father who owned it. Okay, but any event, they were going to sell it. So I figured, I'm going to have to move my junk out of here. I can't leave it behind. And the reason I didn't want to leave all the stuff behind is because theoretically, we could be given a day or less to move. By the way, you have to be out tomorrow. And I didn't want to have to deal with going, I got to move on my stuff. So I went from pretty good, great studio to moved it to my wife's house, which is in the middle of Ghetto Central. Sean has seen it. Sean knows where that is. And at her place, my computer was okay. The internet couldn't even power Spreaker. It was so bad and execrable that not only could I not do video, which is what we were doing before I left, I couldn't even do audio. So at that point, I was pretty much shut down for the show. And that was kind of the end of a good portion of SHR. And then, like everything else, add Wuhan 19, add personal issues with fat guys, etc. And then I decided I was going to move. SHR kind of disappeared for a while. So Sean and I had talked and said, I'd like to, when I move, bring SHR back. And Clint that's the other thing. Clint had already left. Clint was involved in his job, and his job was such that he couldn't be seen associating with persons like us. He had a very sensitive job, and they aren't very humorous at his job, and they take some of the things that we were saying. That's not very funny, mister. So I get it. He had to hold us at arm's length because he had a job and he had a wife and he had kids and people to feed and take care of. I get it. So in the interim, SHR kind of went, because in the meantime, not only did it ruin us, but it ruined Lonnie Poindexter, Ralph Chittum's, Melanie. That was sort of an impetus for her to leave. Ken left. Lots of the other people that were already on the show, they had left because Wuhan 19 was not only kicking our butt, but kicking everybody else's butt. And so SHR languished for a while. Then it took me, my last show was mid to late 21. I lived in what I thought was a really cool cabin up about 4,000 feet in the Sierra Nevada mountains off of Interstate 80 in a little teeny town called Alta. That I almost got my ass burned out in a wildfire in 2015. No bueno. Didn't like that. One of those situations where you had to say, okay, Jersey Joe, you have 10 minutes to save all the cool shit from your entire life. What are you going to do? 10 minutes. Go. That's what I had.
Yeah. It's hard to decide what you're going to take in that short of a time when you're looking at your whole life.
That's what I was faced with. The reality of I'm about to get my ass burned out. And where I was in Placer County, kind of on the top side of a hill off of a place called Alta, kind of in between Alta and a little place called Dutch Flat. Down at the bottom of the hill was the Bear River. The Bear River was the county divide between Placer County, where I was, and Nevada County, which is where the wildfire was raging at the time. It had jumped the river. And so I was watching what we used to call Big Tit Mountain because it looked like a big tit. And the flames on that were, I don't know, 100 feet, 200 feet high. So I'm watching that day flames decimate trees about 1,000, 2,000 feet from me. And I was figuring, okay, well, the heat, it going to be setting this place on fire. Nobody had been given an evacuation order, but I watched people tossing crap in their cars and their pickups and whatnot and taking off to get to my place. It was a one way in, one way out street. There were no multiple ways to get out. If for whatever reason a tree fell at the top of the street where I was blocked. I wouldn't get in there. I'd die. I burn up. So, as you might expect, that scared the living shit out of me. That was when that kind of a predicating event where the wife and I decided, I think I've had enough. Sadly, we had to wait until she retired, but I sold that cabin in 2021. Frankly, I didn't think that I was going to be able to sell that cabin because that was the very beginning of the insurance crisis. And I contacted my insurance agent through State Farm. That's who it was, because my agent said, because I had to call him and tell him I'm going to be leaving here in the not too terribly distant future. I will call you as to when I want to cancel my policy. And he said, well, that's great. Because of where you live, we were going to cancel your policy next year. Thank you. So it's like, no, you're not going to be paying $10,000 to $12,000 a year for a policy. No, we're not just going to jack up your rates. Your policy is done. You're gone. Fini.
Insurance is the biggest scam there is out there. All right, Sean.
Yes and no.
I have not had any luck with any insurance.
I get it, because dealing with an insurance company is like a fucking root canal. I get it. But on the other hand, let's talk just about California, which has, by the way, tons of I don't know what the hell this has to do with SHR, but I guess circuitously, I'll end up coming around back to it. But there's tons of BLM land, federal land, right next to California land, always spelled with a K. And nobody had been taking care properly of their forests. No one. So the fire triangle is heat, fuel, and now I forget the third element of the fire triangle.
Fuel, air.
Air. Thank you. Oxygen. So California at that time was nothing but fuel. They didn't do controlled burns. You couldn't do controlled burns. 2 or 3 years before that, some kind of a beetle had gone through most of the forests of California and killed probably a good quarter of the trees. As I used to drive up there, you'd see a few stands of healthy green trees right next to obvious stands of dead trees. You couldn't log the dead trees. You couldn't take the deadfall. You couldn't do and pick up or clear the limbs. And on top of that, because it had been ignored for literally decades, not on my property, because I'd get nasty grams from CAL FIRE if I didn't keep my property landscaped.
We're getting here in Florida where
my trees limbed.
That stuff.
Yep. And I paid $150 additionally, up where I was, for the privilege of limbing my own trees. So every bit of forest maintenance had been placed on ignore mode for decades. So when people tell you, oh, it's climate change, no, it's leftists saying that you couldn't log, you couldn't take down trees, you couldn't have controlled burns. And because of that, and fir trees, of course, drop pine needles, you could find, not far from me, loam, pine needles, brush, branches. There were some places that were 2 to 3 feet thick, where if you stepped on the ground, it would yield about a good 2 feet or so. Now, that's nothing but fuel.
Yeah.
And so eventually this stuff had to burn. Well, out of curiosity for a show one time, I did some investigations and I found out Cal Fire was originally CDF, California Department of Forestry. And then it got rolled over into Cal Fire, which another agency, whose agency I can't recall, but CDF became Cal Fire. BLM was still BLM. They were also putting their forests on ignore mode. But of course, you couldn't do anything on California ground. And BLM either was not motivated to do anything. They did the same, nothing. But what I discovered after I spoke to some people is firefighters discovered they could make more money fighting fires than they could in prevention. Now, I know that sounds a little, I don't know.
Well, there's more money in finding the cure than actually having the cure.
But the truth hurts. That's like farming. Big pharma, massive fat pharma has no interest in you getting healthy.
No.
And it was the same with the maintenance of forests. So that was another in a series of huge, massive things to get off my fat ass and get out of California, which is where and how SHR ended up languishing. I had to sell my house because of where I was up in the forests, and because I thought, I'm never going to sell my house. Who is going to get insurance up here? Because I just was told, your insurance, bucko, next year, done, gone. Who's going to buy my house? Well, I found somebody. And I had a really good realtor. Took me about 3 weeks to sell. Admittedly, I bumped my my asking price down. Apparently, I bumped it down too much because my realtor said, no, not that much. Go up a little bit. And I found somebody, and they bought it. And it was like, Joe, you cannot imagine the fiscal and mental burden and weight that was removed from my shoulders when my house sold. It was just so refreshing. But we still had another house to sell, and that didn't sell until 22. And we didn't get both houses sold and another new...
I hate to interrupt you, BZ, but I need to hit a promo because we're hitting the half-hour mark.
Hit it. Go.
We'll be right back, guys.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch Reaver of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, But one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, and I'm here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right.
Hi, Mom.
We got the great BZ with us, and one of the things we're discussing, I still got to get all my levels correct on the new mixing board. One of the things that we're discussing is the new SHR Media that's been reborn from the ashes of the old and flying like a phoenix. Sackhead Sean for 2-3 days now has been redoing the whole website. When it's done, we should everybody can just go to SHR Media and watch the show live and chat live from there. We're now on YouTube, SHR Media, Rumble, SHR Media, Facebook, SHR Media, Twitch, SHR Media, and the lone one by itself, Twitter, Reaver of Common Sense. Otherwise, everything's pretty much SHR Media. We got TikTok, Instagram, all on SHR Media now. One of the things we are looking for new broadcasters. We are looking for new writers for the website. If you love this country and don't like what you're seeing and you're a conservative, get a hold of us. We'll talk. But
we need another Melanie Collette, damn it.
And that's the thing, and I don't mean to bring it up. There's pretty much only two requirements. And one of them's a conservative attitude.
Definitely.
And a smart-ass attitude. If you can't take ribbing, it might be hard for you to fit in here because we're all busting each other's chops so bad.
SHR doesn't like me. Go away. And I, not interested. So SHR, the point was 3 hours last night after I almost got burned out of my house. And, life interrupts Sean and me and you, and life has to take precedent. And I finally got a show going because of everybody here. Sean knows this. I am the least technically facile of everyone. Oh, wait, not of everybody. Clint, who's 25 years my junior, when we had the Shat show, Spirit of the North, hello. Whoever you are, we feel your spirit. Thank you for being here. So Clint, when Clint would come for the Shat show, I sat over one here and across the desk, I had to start his laptop and put him on the chat roll so he could watch the chat. Now, he wouldn't necessarily get involved in the chat because that means that he would have to actually use the keyboard and whatnot. Clint was, I think, even less technically competent.
Still a flip phone man
than me, which is, that's a level to which one drops like a plunging elevator. So I came back, decided that I was going to do Rumble, started my first kind of show in January and really didn't get rolling on the shows until maybe March or April. And now I'm pretty much back to my normal schedule before life interrupted of Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. I do a late night show. And then Joe, wait a minute, wrong way. There we go. Joe, this is backwards. I can never figure this crap out. Joe over here, likewise, does a late night show from the Eastern environs, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, but it's 9 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time
for the people on the East on Monday and Friday.
The right coast.
The right coast, because I used to be on the left coast, and now I'm sort of in the Pacific Northwest. See it. Whatever happens in California, I can look at California and just wave at it from afar, and
Laugh at them.
and laugh and giggle like a bastard, and watching them implode from afar. This is a great thing. Okay. PG&E, which is Pacific Gas and Electric, they're the people that ended up setting the Paradise Fire by their faulty equipment and lines, and ended up, in my opinion, murdering 86 people. Their equipment set additional fires. They went bankrupt. Governor Newsom saved them. They have had 4 rate increases this year, PG&E, and they're having a new one that's starting with the next bill. That's increased number 4 in 1 year. So let's see if I get this right. PG&E, which murders people. And oh, by the way, that's how they came up with PG&E was the originator of the PSPS, the power something preventive shutoff. So because PG&E had to make its consumers pay, they couldn't initially raise their rates, so they made you pay by cutting off your power, because you pointed out the fact, you evil consumers, that it was their equipment and lines who created fires. So they created the PSPS. And by the way, when they killed about $4,000 to $5,000 worth of equipment in my house just before I left, I petitioned to apply to get some of that money back. No. From a power supply shutoff from PG&E, I lost my refrigerator, my big TV, my microwave, almost all the light bulbs in my house, etc. Boom. Done. Gone. Some of the light bulbs literally exploded when I came back to my house after about 2 days being away. And so they're increasing their rates, and I don't have to be under PG&E anymore. Oh my God, that is so cool. So SHR came back, and now Sean has decided that he has the time to be able to devote to throwing some attention at SHR. So like I say, I'm 74. I'm not the tech dude around here. I'm the first to admit it. And shrmedia.com, the original one we used to be able to play when we had a show, you used to be able to go to shrmedia.com. We direct people there to the chat room, and you could be in the chat room at SHR and listen to the show on Spreaker. It would simulcast. That's kind of a cool thing. And then when we had all those other people there, we had their bios, etc. And then you could put up all sorts of posts on SHR. And then Sean decided recently, within the past week or so, maybe SHR needs a refresh. So that's exactly what he did. He refreshed and then took all that stuff and redirected it back. So when you go to shrmedia.com, it's not going to look anything like it did.
Nope. And actually, he did the testing today because I was helping him, and he's kind of pretty much got it working with the live broadcast being on the webpage with the chats all going to one chat spot.
See, and that's cool, because at one time when I was doing my show, I was streaming to SHR, to Periscope, which used to be Twitter. That Periscope is gone now. Going through XSplit, going to Facebook, going to YouTube, and Spreaker. So I was streaming to 4 or 5 different locations.
Well, we're doing after shows. We're uploading our shows to Spreaker now, which automatically uploads it to iHeart, Spotify, Apple, and a host of probably about 20 other podcast locations. So there's no excuse why you're not getting our shows.
No, and there's now finally we're starting to get, because like I said, I readily admit I'm not the tech guy. I'm not the eyeball guy. And we're going after the eyeballs now, because everybody, if there's one thing that the three of us decided last night, is that the shows that are on right now are sufficient to be able to garner a good percentile of eyeballs and attention. We just need to figure out how to properly attack the social media, and in what fashion and what kind of content. And so that's essentially what the three of us discussed last night for a good 3 hours, trying to figure out, okay, where are we going to go? When are we going to go there? What are some other ways that we can either monetize or get more views and bring more people into SHR? Because the more that you acquire, and it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the bigger you are and the more you become a name, the easier it is to acquire the guests that you really would like to get someday.
Yep.
I've gotten some, what I consider to be some really good guests.
BZ, you got this for a minute?
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Sure. But we can't get the kind of guests that we would love to get that a lot of other people seem to get. And it's a little bit beyond us. And so we determined that we're going to throw our own money and our own attention to trying to see if we can expand. And it's an ongoing kind of thing. In other words, when I first got to SHR, Clint and Sean, and they actually had a producer by the name of Sacco. And Sacco, in that original studio, would sit over in the corner at the big desk where the mixers were and whatnot. And then the mics were running on the carpet over to the other corner where Clint and Sean would do nothing but talk. They were just the talent. So those suckers, they actually had a producer at one time. And then I'm not sure exactly what happened to Sacco. He went on his merry way. He was a relatively young guy. He probably had a life to live. And so it was Sean and Clint. And I was on Twitter. I had just retired, and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because I don't want to be on heroin anymore. So I met with Sean in downtown Sacramento. This is an age-old story. And Sean was nice enough to say, hey, during the next show that we have on Wednesday night, why don't you drop by? And I'll introduce you to Clint. And because I already hated downtown Sacramento, and I had driven to a Starbucks where we met in downtown Sacramento, as soon as I went back to my car, I had a parking ticket on my car. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I don't like downtown Sacramento. But anyway, I started to throw some money at SHR. We got new mics. We got a new board. We got new lines. We got some new computers. We got some new laptops. And I think that the sound quality really, really became upgraded.
It's a lot different than back in the days.
If I don't get credit for anything, because I am kind of a stoop, but if I don't get credit for anything, I'd like to get credit for the fact that our sound got better because of me saying, this is a little weird. I wonder if I could make stuff sound better. And I did. And the talent was still the same. The talent was still Clint and Sean. But now you could hear everybody. Really nice now. Big difference, I thought.
Let me throw this in there.
Sure.
I owe Sean and Clint an extension. But most of my dealings, and it's nothing against Sean or Clint, most of my dealings have been with Sean. Sean's the one that gave me... I swear this has too much bass to it.
Yeah, I can't tell you that because my hearing is toast.
it was Sean that gave me my start. I will always be grateful to him. But when I had to go down because of medical, there we go. I think I got it better there. I started, when you came back on, I started listening to you. I was watching your show. I didn't always comment. I was in the shadows. And that was one of the things that gave me the itch to come back, BZ. Listening to you. Besides the government going to shit.
Yeah.
But I was actually at one point trying to distance myself from that because I just didn't have the urge. But as soon as I heard you talking it just got that itch back, and you welcomed me back with open arms. I don't know if you want to let know what you helped me with or not. That was a big help making my show a little bit better. I owe you a lot too. I'll always be indebted to you and Sean for everything you do. And that's why I told you, besides, I don't mind, but because I owe you so much, anytime you guys need, I'm always there for you guys. That's just the way I roll.
Well, I figure I should treat people the way I was treated myself. And that means that Sean was kind enough to invite me into the studio. I really didn't say much the first 2, 3, 4 shows. I finally started to respond a little bit. And then at the same time, I was able to Bigfoot Ken McClinton's show. And then I didn't do my own show until January of 2017. Even though I'd retired in 2016, we had already been to Freedom Fest.
Y'all take a look into the chat. There's someone saying hi to you.
Sean Stroich, hi BZ, and I don't know who. It's been a while. Well, Sean, welcome and thank you for being here. We always want to see people in the chat. See, and it's folks like this. Let me tell you what's cool. I
didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted.
No, that's fine. That's okay. So one day, on a show, maybe 2.5 years ago,
in a galaxy not far away.
No, it wasn't that far away. It wasn't that long ago. And I get in chat because I didn't monitor anything except SHR Media chat. I'm not smart enough to monitor Facebook chat and YouTube chat and this chat and that chat. I just wanted to monitor the chat under shrmedia.com. So I did. So one day, this unknown person comes up into the chat room at the top of the chat roll up there. And they said, hi, how you doing? I'm from New Zealand. Then I got the phone call from a chick in New Zealand who had been listening to the show for months, but never said anything, just was sort of listening and enjoying the show. When you get somebody in a chat room from another country entirely, I got to tell you, it was a sweet feeling. It was really nice. And then when you get people that are engaged in the chat,
yep,
and you're engaging and you're commenting back and forth, that's a really cool thing too. So I really enjoy the chat room. Joe really enjoys the chat room. Yep. Sean's trying to assemble everything back into the point where we can look at everybody in the chat room and we can really engage, because engaging with our listeners is something we really want to do. And we really like, because we want to find out what sells.
Even if you disagree with us.
Yeah. If you disagree, that's fine. No big deal. I had a guy call my show about 2 months ago and start off on this massive leftist rant. And it was at that moment in time that I decided this is my future tactic. Started dropping FNS bombs on me. And I said something similar to, okay, hang up on yourself. And I hung up on him. So that's how I'm going to handle people in the future that are not kind. At least
that's the thing. If you're going to get involved, be mature about it. Be respectful.
As they used to say at the Blockbuster, Be kind. Rewind. Boy,
I said that one day. My daughter
Ah.
looked at me and goes, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah, not everybody gets that whole shindig. So SHR Media is coming back. If you have some time, go to shrmedia.com. You're going to find some new posts there. You're going to find eventually you're going to be able to interact with the show as they are live there at SHR Media. You'll find the chat rooms there. Now, I have to say my chat room is better. I have a sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room, which has been newly reupholstered with fine Corinthian leather. We have all the M&Ms you could possibly want on that beautiful table that I frequently display on my show. There's abundant light coming in with these triple paned windows. We have a TV. We have granite countertops in the bathroom. You're really going to love my chat room. Now, when you go to the other chat rooms, we're working on it. It's a work
Mine
in
looks like a
progress.
biker clubhouse. It's got the keg in the corner, the one leg missing from the couch and stuff. A couple books underneath of it.
But the other thing cool is when people lose change, you get to pull off the pillows.
Yep.
And you said you found a 50 there the other day, and I thought that is just way cool.
It was a 50-cent piece.
That was, but still. So SHR is coming back. Myself and Sean and Joe, we're talking about the myriad ways in which we'd like to be able to do that. I'm thinking that Sean wants to be able to come back with his own show. That I don't know is going to come to fruition. He may or may not be coming back. Joe will continue to have his shows. I will
don't want to
continue.
out a bag, but when you get done with the show, BZ, log into Rumble and look at the channel of SHR Media Group.
Okay.
You're going to notice
Something new?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look for something new.
Because someone's going to need access to Rumble.
Okay. I'm not necessarily, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that, but hey, those are details we can figure out. And
you'll have no problem giving this person access.
Oh, excellent. So SHR is changing. SHR is expanding. SHR, I don't believe until retirement, probably at least another year. Clint has expressed once he retires and he's not under the contingencies of his current employment that he would like to come back. And maybe we can figure out a way to put him on video, because I think he's probably still going to be in California, always spell it with a K, for at least a while.
Yeah, the software that we're using is so easy that even Clint could do it.
Well, look at it this way. This is how I view it, is if I'm kind of semi-trainable, if I decided that I wanted to go to StreamYard as a platform to kick out my show, and then I figure out how to do Rumble, which is the end platform where you and I are right now, where you're streaming on Rumble at the SHR Media Group. If I can do this, then probably Clint might be able to do it. He might not be able to get his own show. I think he'd much rather be on one of our shows, unless somehow we're going to bring the Sackheads. Maybe we are getting the band back together. I'm not sure. All I know for a fact is that it's going to be
with the Blues Brother movie. Didn't they have to add in new members because other members were not around to fill those spots anymore?
They went back to the original members. Now, that was in the first Blues Brothers.
I thought
with the 1974 Dodge Monaco. There was a second Blues Brothers, which had John Goodman in it. And I didn't, it was okay. But the original Blues Brothers, where they trashed.
We got a half a tank of gas, a carton full of cigarettes. I forget the rest of it. It's been so long. But I want to jump on one thing real quick because we got less than 5 minutes.
Yes, we do.
What is it? Rasmussen. Polls.
Polls? Okay.
Trump 50. Kamala Harris 44. 6-point lead for Trump.
See,
I could believe that, especially after there's a lot of people complaining after the debate. It's being reported ABC lost $27 million in sponsors because of what happened.
I am definitely of two minds about all that. When I make posts, here's the other thing. Jesus, you and Sean, you techno guys. So I told you a story last night about I got my ass kicked off Twitter. And then one day after show drinking heavily, it wouldn't be vodka, would it be, Z? As a matter of fact, I figured out how to get back on Twitter, but I still couldn't figure out how to make Twitter work on my phone, because this is where I normally would work the hell out of Twitter. Well, I figured out last night, thanks to your help, how to get back onto Twitter. But that being said, I know we know exactly what happened with ABC. Who got the questions, where the bump was there a bump? Well, if you talk to what I term the American media maggots, all they say is she got bump. She's going to kick ass. And then some of these polls come out that are like that say, hey, Trump's not that far behind. And then I always think, let's not go red wave. Let's not go. Not go tsunami. Then on the other hand, my other lizard brain kicks in and says, wait. Don't you remember what happened with Hillary Clinton? And then all of a sudden, all those polls didn't mean shit.
If you look at any poll that's done on X, even by liberals, I'm seeing Trump 80%, anywhere from 70 to 80%, and Kamala only getting 20 to 30%. And that's left-leaning accounts. Trump is smoking her. And I'm not saying I hate that red wave stuff. I say, understand that Trump's ahead, but vote like he's behind people.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of rumors coming out of Kamala's camp that camp is just in tatters. No bump from the convention. There's no bump from her interview. No bump from that debate, if you want to call it debate. Her campaign, I believe the rumors that it's doing worse than Biden was.
I want to mention this because I think it's important to talk to people that are in chat. Sean Stroich said, I agree with BZ. Loved your thoughts. By this hour, I'm pretty informed on most. Thought you'd been off for a couple of years. Not this Sean show. Missed you, brother. It happens. We know. No bump and live polls these days. So thanks for being in chat. We really appreciate that. And no red wave talk. Certainly agree with that. But we do have to be careful. I'd love to believe all of this stuff, but I still think we have to act like it's Noah's Ark. The rain is really coming down. The last set of animals is about to board. It's two monkeys, and you're the third monkey, and you got to get your ass in there.
I agree 100%.
That's how we need to think about this. Yes. I know you got to wrap up Hill real soon. I want to say one additional thing. Right. Only one thing that I really learned out of the 60s. I had a civics teacher whose name was Mr. Helms, and I was a massive leftist in the 60s and also in the beginning of college. I walked streets for McGovern. Yeah. Story for another day. But Mr. Helms said this. I didn't remember anything else from his civics class except in the 60s. Democrats don't win elections. Republicans lose them. This is ours to lose. It belongs to us. And historically, they always do until we decide to fuck up. It's ours to lose. We can't fuck up.
Exactly. And we're going to leave it right there. I want to thank everybody that was in the chat. Everybody that joined the show. Remember, this is a new beginning for SHR Media. If you're interested, contact us for if you want to try doing one of these shows. If you love writing, contact us. We're looking for writers for the website. And I will be back Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on SHR Media. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Rumble, and Twitter through Reaver of Common Sense. And with that, I want to thank BZ, and I want to wish you a great weekend, boss. You have a good night. And then that's going to leave us for the end. I'll see you guys Monday. Peace.